Welcome everybody to this meeting of the Cemetery Board. I'm Dan Shapiro, Azar Morales' designee as chair.
Bob Welch, Dr. Nareem Shah's designee, Commissioner Hill.
And Chris Wiles, Attorney General Snyder.
Lewis?
Lewis Polish, Director of Cemeteries. I thought Tony went first.
No, I just mixed it up just for fun.
Chet Buckwitz, Assistant Director, Division Cemetery.
Mike Seelman, Senior Investigator, Division of Cemeteries. Mr. Mondo, Accountant, New York City.
Chris Casco, Senior Accountant, Division of Cemeteries.
Suzanne Dressel, Clerk, Division Cemeteries.
Joe Ambrose, Associate Accountant, Division of Cemeteries.
Tony Willowell, Counsel to the Cemetery Board.
Chris, welcome. We don't usually see you here.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
And Vince as well.
Well, see Vince.
And just for a matter of record, before we move on.
Yeah.
Just so folks are aware, Chet, April meeting, what's the date now?
Yes.
And the location?
The April meeting will be at the NICET conference, being held at the
Albany Hill.
Hilton Albany.
We'll let you know the room later
I'll
on.
let
you know the room.
April 30th,
April 30th.
Wednesday.
Yes.
You say 10 o'clock?
Time start? 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock.
Sure.
Anytime. Sounds good.
Thank you.
It's one right now.
Different location.
Very good.
We'll bring a picture of one of the secretaries in state for company.
Yeah. Sounds good. Looking forward to that. All right, folks, had an opportunity to review the minutes?
And their draft, is there
Yeah, well, there are 2 minutes to review.
Right.
The original approved minutes of December 19th, 2013 were amended. I have copies of what was originally approved, because what was sent in the board packet was the amended version. So I can explain the change. Actually, it's the one page sheet in the back. One page sheet in the back. That was what was originally approved. Do you have that one?
Yep.
So it was originally approved.
The change is regarding West Hampton Cemetery. We just needed to be more clear on what the actual motion was, because these minutes are going to Supreme Court to approve the land transaction, and it was a complicated motion. So the language that we're proposing now is more accurate than what was approved.
All right. To recommend approval for the purchase and sale of real property. Yeah, I actually have written on this clarify. I'm not sure I understand it. And the language that we're talking about now is the language that you've amended it to be, right?
That's, yes.
So,
This is one where there was a purchase of real property and a sale.
right.
And they took the position that because they were unified transaction, that there should be an
Agreed. The request is no deposit made at the end of this. So, and where did the loan come from? What was that? Because they're not making the contribution, so they still needed the loan. You didn't just refresh.
Yeah, what happened there was, they wanted a grant rather than a loan, because they were using, what was it, general funding or
Yeah,
general
they've
funds
been-
for maintenance.
Right.
Not using PM fund for maintenance. So we said, well, we'll make this a loan, use the PM funding at interest for your cemetery maintenance, they don't have the funds to pay back the loan.
All right. So, and to conditionally approve, I guess maybe the only change I'd make is a loan, not the loan, because we hadn't previously referenced it, right?
Right.
So, just say a loan. I'm all right with that.
Okay.
good?
All right. Move.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Now, because you gave me a set of minutes to look at, of course, I didn't look at the date, that's why I have all this, well, didn't they get reimbursement for the vandalism on the mountain, on their own building, you know? So I'm minutes behind, so can you just throw me your copy of this? New one? This is for better. I just have to look at it.
So did the draft become the final?
Once you approve it, then you'll approve it with the removal of the word draft.
The ones that draft are for last month. They're now
Oh, right,
approving
right,
last
right.
month, yes.
Any comment? All right, just one more second.
Well, maybe I should ask this now.
Yep.
After we move, is there any update on the Mount Pleasant issue? Tabled that last month?
Which Mount Pleasant? You mean Santa Mauritius, the SUNY one?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is an update, but should you, the issue is now moved.
Okay. So,
And the division report, I'll explain why it's moved.
Very good. All right, I'm fine with these minutes. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Very good.
Suzanne, you're gonna remove the word draft before we actually finalize that.
Okay. Mr. Malillo, legislation and regulation.
It's
Getting busier, yeah?
Yeah, it is, especially in the Senate. Actually, I'll start with the bill that didn't make it into the legislative report. I just found it this morning. So, it was introduced in January. It's a law to amend section 42(1) of the public health law. It's a bill to amend section 42(1) of the public health law, which states how who has authority to dispose of remains, and it provides a form that someone can sign designating someone as a person in control of their remains. And it just clarifies procedure, clarifies the effect of a provision in the will dealing with the repository of the remains. And it actually has passed the assembly, and but it hasn't made it. That's Assembly Bill 2600. So that's not in the report, but it'll be added. Then we have working on that's actually in the report. Where is it? All right. Senate Bill. This is the third item. Senate Bill 283. This is dealing with vandalism of a veteran's plot. Makes it a Class C felony. It passed the Senate. It's not moving in this. Next item is 4. This deals with the unauthorized sale of cemetery markers, flag holders, and other veterans' memorabilia. Again, dealing with making it a crime. This was passed the Senate, and it's sitting in this one. Next bill that's moved is number 5. This is a cemetery that has remains of a veteran, only remains of a veteran, 120 days after cremation, without instruction of how to dispose of them, authorizes them to find a next of kin, deal with the remains.
And if they don't find an next of kin? That's the issue.
Right. They are allowed to dispose of them by relinquishing possession to a veterans organization. They can next of kin. Pass the Senate. Next item is number 11. Senate Bill 4324. This is a significant bill. This would eliminate Supreme Court approval for cemetery purchase and sale of land. The cemetery board would, instead of making a recommendation, would actually approve the transaction. It would also eliminate court approval for the designation of fiduciary trust funds, giving that power to the cemetery board. And would eliminate the requirement for cemetery board approval for the resale of a burial lot.
All three in the one bill and piece of legislation.
Yeah.
What's the two-tone to attorney general? Is it when they make the attorney general?
No, yeah, because the attorney general's only here and a half in front of the Supreme Court, so without a Supreme Court
There's no separate AG approval for
Right.
these transactions.
Right. So, this one passed the Senate. So, the
Tony,
next,
can I ask about number 10 here? Is that Tony Schumer? The one about saying that the cemetery board has sole jurisdiction over cemeteries?
this one has advanced to third reading in the Senate. That's as far as it's gotten. Don't remember that. Next item is number 18. Allow cemeteries to permit the burial of pet cremated remains when incidental to a burial of human remains to charge for such a burial. This has passed the Senate. It's sitting in the Senate. I've added, there's a new bill, number 19, which I just hadn't caught it previously to this one. This would require cemeteries to bury human remains the day the remains are received, with limited exceptions. And this is a one-house bill which is sitting in the Senate.
Which number was that?
Number 19.
Under items of interest, I've added another bill. Amend, this is an interesting one, amend the mental hygiene law to require the release of patient names and other information for patients who have been buried for 50 years in a state mental health institution. A lot of these mental health facilities, the cemeteries that existed on the facilities have been sold. They've been handled by the state agencies or private hands. But the cemeteries are in disarray. There's no headstones. The headstones are down. People can't find their burial plots from their kin. So, and because of privacy law for mental health patients, mental health hasn't been able to release information. So this would cure that at least for people who have been buried for 50 years. And that's no movement in either house.
What about number 14? So,
Yeah, this one would allow cemeteries to use income from permanent maintenance fund for any purpose, not just maintenance and preservation. Allow cemeteries to use net depreciation value principle without resorting to adjusted historic dollar value formula to lease the adjusted historic dollar value. It permits innovation risk based on management act. It also deletes the requirement of 60 days prior notice to the cemetery board and the power of the cemetery board to disapprove the invasion.
Where is that?
It's a Senate and Assembly bill. In the Senate, it's advanced to the third reading. No action was.
Right. You'll keep an eye on all of these.
Yep.
That one's somewhat more.
Yeah.
Those are some significant bills. All right. Regulation?
No change in status.
How are we doing?
Well, actually, I've gotten, well, we had asked NISAC and Pine Lawn to get us
Yes.
forms that they use for these sales. I've gotten some of them from NISAC, so we'll be on that.
Okay, so picking up where Tony left off on the division report, we had a interesting request from the cemetery where they wanted to, actually two of our updates involve Mount Pleasant in Suffolk County. The first one is Mount Pleasant wanted to establish a fee for entering pet cremated remains. I took the liberty of denying that request after consulting with council, based on the fact that the board has previously taken the position that current law does not allow that. Obviously, if this bill, I think I think Steve Sherry is aware of the bill, and obviously if it passes, we'll have to consider such requests. But as of now, this cannot be a service because they can't do it.
Right. Correct.
But there's definitely, when I gave a presentation on the cemetery law to the funeral director, several of them also asked about this this is a big thing, and it doesn't seem to be going away. That was issue number one. Issue number two, also with Mount Pleasant, was the issue, they had asked us whether they could charge a discounted rate for disposal, for cremation of cadavers from SUNY, Stony Brook. And we had some concerns about that, and we suggested, after Ag and checked with council, and we suggested, why don't we, if other cemeteries have an indigent rate, you establish the indigent rate, you want to charge that to them, that should be okay. It turns out that SUNY was paying the entire sum to the funeral home, which is then paying a portion to the
We had discussed
cemetery.
this last time.
And the funeral home seems to be perfectly happy to pay the full price to the cemetery. So the whole thing is happily been left at that. There's no, the whole issue needs to be moved because the funeral director is willing to share the extra funds with the cemetery. That's the end of the matter. It's up again, we'll worry about it.
Good.
What else did I have on the board? Pet insurance starter, okay. Cemetery finances, this is gonna be a subject of a lot more conversation, but we're having a division-wide meeting later, and, today, and in coming months, but, we're looking at various issues concerning cemetery finances. Trying to figure out how to deal with them. I can't be more specific, because we haven't had a discussion, but two basic categories are cemeteries, small cemeteries up here that are in financial straits and in personnel straits. To run the entities, trying to figure out what to do, whether we can do more with them. And downstate, I think the biggest issue may very well be that this is going to be subject to discussion with council, with the Attorney General, probably as well. There's going to be some financial changes that come with the effective date of the Nonprofit Revitalization Act, which for some things is July 1, and for other things is July 1, 2015, and I think there are a couple of intermediate dates. It's not something we're prepared to do anything publicly with now, but we're going to have to get out some type of guidance to our cemeteries as to the impact of the act on them.
Right.
Some of the questions some of the impacts are pretty clear. Some of them are pretty clear that they don't apply to them. Easy one. The act does away with most charities having to go to the court and the Attorney General. They can just go to the Attorney General and then go to court and fight the result. That does not apply to cemeteries. That's bill pending because it doesn't do away with that. But there's some other players. We're going to need to get guidance out on this, but we're not there yet.
Right. I like the nice little, you and Tony will be working together, figure out what we think the law says. And then we'll evolve for it.
Right, but it's some of the provisions could be a fairly significant change to how cemeteries operate. And it's going to be an ongoing conversation. No updates on, last month I talked about the outreach to the towns. We have no updates on that because basically there hasn't improved, so nobody's been able to constantly going out in the field to do anything.
That it? All right.
I hope to report on the results of our division-wide meeting, but that got postponed to today, so.
That's a good day for it. We'll get to the fourth meeting. All right, Mr. Vandalism.
For the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2014, just a few days later now, vandalism fees collected were $132,061. Applications granted were $559,397. Applications pending are $713,910, of which $152,000 are on today's agenda. Of the applications granted, 7 were for vandalism, totaling $64,029. 21 applications were for restorations or hazard modification, totaling $473,221. And 2 applications for abandoned cemeteries, totaling $52,000.
Very good. All right. right, moving on to the vendors and orders. Can I suggest that we take all but Asbury, treat Asbury separately? If anybody has any questions on any of the others, 1, 2, 3, and 5? Fine? I'm fine too, only to say that I know in Saranac Cemetery, that was an 11-year-old kid that overturned all those. Had community service, and I wondered if that shouldn't be at the cemetery, but anyway, that just amazes me. All right, without having further discussion on Albert, Saranac, Orleans, and Jonesville, do I have a motion? Moved, noted, moved, seconded, all in favor say aye. Aye. All right, now Asbury. Asbury's for $89,660. This is an acquisition, right? Another cemetery, and so it's in the nature of abandonment. And it's interesting. It actually raised some questions I hadn't thought of before, which is why I severed it out. First, and the obvious thing is that we really don't know how much money is going to be spent on this because it's overlaid with brush to the extent that you can't get in there and determine how many trees are going to come out or whatever.
Although I think that we got a revised, as a more detailed estimate, which I think is in the package here.
Yeah.
So the trees are a smaller piece of this than I had thought. The brush
Okay.
clearance is a bigger piece, so the uncertainty is probably less than I originally thought that most of the cost of this was the trees, but most of the cost is actually the brush clearance.
Yeah, okay.
Which may mean they're leaving more trees in place, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah, probably a good thing. All right, that was the first thing. I didn't see that being problematic. I read about the stone wall.
Yes.
And what's represented there is that they'll be taking that down or fixing it in the future. And it brought to mind the distinction, and we haven't discussed this because it just occurred to me while I was reading this morning, between abandoned and dangerous vandalism. And what do we do? And this is a question I'm holding up to the board vision. 5 years from now, or 3 years from now, we've given what is in the nature of an abandonment grant to the cemetery, all right? Then the cemetery comes back for a dangerous situation, right? Do you feel compelled to honor that, all right? Because abandonment, remember, is one time only. You take your shot.
I'm not sure how dangerous this wall will actually be. It's not a retaining wall, and it's not that high.
I think that's why it's not neat. Here's what I think. I don't think they have to completely answer the question. I think that anything that could have been rectified in the nature of abandonment at the time the claim is made, if it's not addressed, then you don't get another shot at it. All right? So, for instance, this stone wall, if 2 years from now, and I suppose 20 years from now is a different story. I mean, this is not, you know. So 2 years from now, you come back and say, oh, we decided to take down the stone wall, we're going to need 50 grand. And I think perhaps it's not granted because it should have been in the abandonment if in fact it was dangerous. If circumstances change and become dangerous, then we'll have to take that on. But I think we need a little work on this.
Doesn't the
Philosophically.
statute specifically talk about dangerous monuments?
The new provision?
15078. Forget about abandonments for a second. If you can't, I don't think they
That's
can
true.
come back and claim that this is
That's true. I was thinking.
condition, it's not a
Yeah,
monument.
yeah, that's true.
I think they've got their one bite at this
Yeah,
on
yeah.
abandonment, and if they don't want us, they could, I don't know whether they could come to us with this or not.
Yeah.
It's not the kind of thing that has to get done.
It just raised, I didn't see this as being an issue, a real issue in this application. I
Well, the
saw it
truth
as
of the
just
matter is, I think
raising
they're-
the discussion.
I think they're, from talking to them, they're prepared to use their own funds
No,
to
it's
deal
like
with
us.
it. So I'm not,
The wall.
yeah, it's, like I said, it's not like this retaining wall, which we'll talk about a little bit. No, we probably won't talk about this time, we're not ready to talk about it yet.
All right, okay, but I want to keep that buzzing around in terms of discussion, because I'm not sure how that plays out. All right. Not, this application's not an immediate issue, but we'll talk about that, I think. All right. Sign it here, then.
Well, hold on, didn't you also have a question about whether given that there is still some uncertainty as to how this is going to get.
Oh, yeah, how are we gonna do the funds on that? Because we
Right.
don't really know.
Because we don't know for sure how much they're really gonna spend.
Right? It's different. Usually we really do have a very good idea, so we make the grant, it's not reimbursement based, it's fine, it's spent. This is sort of exploratory in nature, so what do you think?
One possible approach, I guess two possible approaches. One would be to approve only a portion of it now without prejudice, even though we're amending this one time, without prejudice to considering the rest of it once they've used the money. Another way, I don't know legally, Tony, whether everyone can do this, would be for the board to approve the entire application, but tell us at the division level, only write a check for, say, half of it right now. Make them come back and satisfy us as to A, what they've done with that money, and B, what they still need. And then, at that point, we can fill out their voucher without coming to the board, cut a second check, not to exceed the total amount approved by the board.
Yeah, we can delegate to the division, I don't see any issue with that. And in fact, I would not want to have a secretary come back to the board. I think our job here is on the merits, and the merits are that clearly it's an abandoned cemetery, there's clearly money to be expended to clean it up. We vote on that. With respect to the exact dollar amount, since this is it's not clear how much is going to be needed, we certainly can delegate to the division, or no problem with that.
The only-
The authority to need out money as is appropriate. If the cemetery, if the division of the cemetery get into a disagreement with respect to the monies, the cemetery certainly will come back to the board.
Yeah, the only thing the only thing that makes me a little nervous, and I think at the division level this should be okay, is it'll cost them more if they have to mobilize these guys twice. Once they're on site, they're gonna just want them on site and do that, but I think we can probably see their receipts and see their bill for partial bill for what they've done and turn it around really quickly. I mean, this is in New York City. We can get out there in half an hour to see what they've done, and we can probably, the only issue would be to get fiscal to cut a check. And the cemetery that's taking over this cemetery is not without its own resources. If they're out of pocket for a month, it would be the end of the world.
I have no problem with that. All right.
And we'll make sure the logistics of there will respect the voucher, which is.
So, Asbury's not here, is Asbury here? Okay.
We could call them if we need to, but I don't think they'll have a problem.
Okay, you've been in touch with them, right?
If there is a problem, I don't know if you could phrase your resolution or approval in such a way that if somehow this just is unworkable, we'll cut them a check. Or do you want us to come back?
No, I'll give you the authority to do that.
Okay.
All right, so here, I'll move to the approval of $89,660 in abandoned funds, for lack of a better word for this, to Asbury Cemetery, conditioned on the division's approval of monies as spent or as projected to be spent by the cemetery.
The only thing to qualify that is, because I wasn't here yet, I don't know whether Asbury Cemetery still exists or whether it's actually merged with Washington.
Washington is the surviving, right?
Yeah.
So incorporated into the motion.
Okay. So if Asbury doesn't exist, the money goes to Washington.
Second? Yes. Good. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right. That's Asbury. Well, Washington, that is.
It's Asbury and Washington.
Did that five.
It's the fourth one.
Oh, okay, all right, I'm
We
sorry.
did it out of order.
I'm back.
No, we went out of order.
All right. Beth Moses.
Vince, do you want to explain this?
Beth Moses came in with an ECI rate-up for all the charges except the perpetual care charge. And we learned, and actually, the new management at Beth Moses brought it to our attention, they have two separate PC rates, one for society members and one for regular graves purchased from the cemetery. And the rate that they charged the societies was significantly less less than the $2,500 they charge the public.
Less than a quarter.
They hadn't raised it with the ECI like they did the other. They wanted to, they're requesting to raise the society PC charge from $585 to $1,250, while still maintaining kind of a bulk discount for the societies.
Right, it's half the price of the non-society, right?
Henceforward, I imagine they'll try to keep it around half the price, or just ECI them both when they do, if it's approved.
So explain to me, I got the impression from the write-up that how this works is the society, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's lot holders or folks within the society, paying an upfront fee to establish perpetual care.
And this is on top of that?
Yeah, is that right?
It's possible. They don't have records, and they think that there may be the case, and if it is, it's very insignificant. Basically, they think, the new management at Osmosis, that they just bought in bulk, and they were members, and they always maintain this discount.
How does it work for non-society rates?
$2,500.
Yeah, and then what about establishing it upfront?
No, it's $2,500 when you endow the grave.
Okay.
Say the 585 is paid on interment, or are they doing it pre-need?
It's paid when you order it. Typically, it's paid when you order a bed, open or closed bed, or a ledger, and then they require it.
So it's at the time of at the time or after interment. It's not a pre.
It's not right.
All right.
It is possible that certain societies have certain very, very old deals, and they could determine that. We ask for contracts.
Yeah, that's what I was getting.
It's very possible.
Something in the write-up indicated that you would pay for bulk lots, you would pay some kind of a front fee or whatever, and then as each burial was made, you pay an additional fee.
It may be possible. We never could.
So we don't have any contracts, we don't know what the contracts are, the burial societies haven't come up with anything either.
Well, we haven't actually reached out to the burial societies. That's something else I was sitting here listening that maybe before this is approved, we ought to do. There are still some societies at these cemeteries that actually still function to a greater or lesser degree, and they may very well have records that would shed light on this. We don't know.
But you know where I'm going, I mean, if there's a contract that governs this, then there has to be a willing amendment of the contract, or it's no go. Maybe we should take a look at that? Is that?
Well, we can try to reach out to some of those societies.
Well, I think what the board can do is approve the fee with the understanding that it's subject to the contract. So,
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That way we don't have to come back.
Fee, right.
Yeah,
But
it's
we
an
are not-
existing contract, that, yeah, it renders that.
But we won't let them implement this fee until we're satisfied that, but the problem is it's gonna be different from society to society, and God only knows, we're not gonna find the records for most of these societies.
And if there's nothing out there, then they're treated like everybody else.
The burden would be on them to demonstrate that they have a different deal.
Yeah, I think so. But and the cemetery chooses to give a break to the society, and it is a break because, again, this is a service fee, so, you know.
It isn't a break in the sense that we don't know exactly what the deals are with these particular societies, but there's certainly enough cemeteries in which the gates and the paths are maintained by the society. If you were in a non-society area, it would be up to the cemetery to maintain those paths and entrances and what have you. So,
I buy that.
Sorry I brought this prematurely to your attention.
It's premature. I just,
to get more information on this before you sign off.
Your call. You want us, because I have no problem approving it, subject to any pre-existing contracts which might exist, all right? Or having you take a look and see what the facts are on the ground with respect to these societies. Either way is fine.
That's what it was. Which one? I mean,
Approve it, and then we'll just double check with the society.
All right.
but I want to make sure that we're clear that we don't have to let them implement it until we're satisfied that a particular society doesn't have that kind of arrangement. there's one society in particular
You know what?
that's being squeezed to be able
Let's
to.
just, you have a concern. That's fine. All right, leave it on. Leave it on.
I don't think they'll have a problem waiting till next month.
We'll be good.
And, Wellwood is the same, right?
Same thing.
Yeah, that's, okay. All right, we'll table that for next time. Probably.
Woodlawn.
Yeah, I got it. Woodlawn and Pine. Okay. Moving ahead, at lightning speed, Woodlawn Cemetery.
Vince, you wanna do this too?
Vince, you want to give us a thumbnail on Woodlawn?
Woodlawn is proposing to build, a new mausoleum. They built 10
Yes.
in the recent years, and they're seeking approval to build a new one.
They pretty much sold out on the others?
And the others?
Yeah.
I think getting there, right?
Yeah.
They seem to be selling well.
Good. No issues from the division side.
No.
If I remember right, one of the issues is that the land is such that you can build a mausoleum, but you can't put individual graves there.
Well, the remaining acres of Woodlawn have a significant amount of bedrock below most of the parcels, so unfortunately ground burial will be limited.
Right.
Hence, we're building more mausoleums up. But this is a small complex, it's only about 800 casket spaces.
Right. I mean, any questions? Yeah, I mean, it looks like a fine project.
I mean, both Vince and I have seen the site.
Right. Question, lost sales on graves, this is more for the division, I think. Why do we include that in the analysis? Is it really lost sales on graves? I mean, how do you even go there?
Well, I think that happened before you come to it, you know, because the graves, particularly downstate, could be several thousands.
Yeah, but you still, but they have the burial space they have, that people want to be, I mean, I'm not so sure it's really a choice. I mean, some people want to be interred in the ground, and some people want to be interred above ground. So I don't know if that's real, that's all.
It's almost a cost of like materials, if you will. You know, if there was a cost of being given up for that space.
I actually think it generally does make sense.
Yeah.
In this case, it may not, because you can't use these graves.
Right.
Well said. And we've always included that in the calculations?
I
You know,
hesitate to say always, but I believe it
5
was,
years.
it was in consideration in some of the previous up.
Good thing.
Maple Grove.
I
Almost
probably
akin-
said, why don't we do that 10 years ago?
Well, almost akin to a PM loan, and say, well, if you borrow money from PM, that account is not getting, you know, any rate of return on money that's being withdrawn.
That's right, especially downstate where land is limited and you're giving up the possibility,
Right.
in the typical case, of having in-ground burials. That's what.
Okay.
And actually, I'm gonna say, was reading it over, it felt good to know that the cemetery plans ahead to have a 5% of space there that they put into future construction.
Noted that.
There are 24
Fund,
of
yes.
requested borrowed funds. You know, restricted accounts.
Your experience with this done well. So, anything else? Motion?
So moved.
Just
Oh,
before I vote on the motion, there's one provision
what
that
did
I
we
just,
forget?
I just want to remind the cemetery, the requirements of our regulation to 1.11C, which is that before service charges can be implemented on this, they have to be approved by the cemetery board. And if you're just applying existing service charges for interment in a mausoleum, you're probably okay, but if you're changing the charges, obviously, you need to let us know.
Existing charges for opening and closing.
Right.
They're the same.
Okay.
They will.
Great. All right, so have a motion, have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Very good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Pine Ridge Cemetery, lot reclamation. It appears as though all the i's have been dotted and t's been crossed. Anything, Tony?
No, that's good.
Okay. All right. Motion?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Move to approve. All right. Oh, I went out of order. Okay. Okay, sorry. Having gone through our regular agenda for 4 executive sessions, I'll open it up now. Folks, on the agenda, any issues? Say hello.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm wonderful, how are you?
Good.
Cemetery of the Highlands came before this board in December to sell our ground leases.
Yep.
We've spent significant money with the attorney and time, and I do believe the contract is acceptable. We just need approval in writing from this board to go through with the closing. We missed the January closing, so we'd like to close by April 1st.
Can we already resolve to approve that?
I think
Yes.
we wanted Tony to just review the language and make sure you were comfortable with
Right,
it.
we delegated that to Tony, council, all right, have the authority to do that, so you can sign and we pass you the board. Do you need anything special?
We just need a letter that the board
Yeah,
accepts it.
Tony will do a letter. All right,
You said you needed by like April 1st.
Well, we missed the January closing, they'd like to close by April 1st. If at all possible.
Pressure, Tom.
Sorry.
you have Tony's number?
I do. He's tired of hearing from me, I'm sure.
You have my number?
No.
Same as Tony's. And everything's fine. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Anybody else today?
Hi, my name is Valerie Newell. I'm from the Bethlehem Cemetery Association in Albany County. Not that it probably matters, but our number is 01004. Marilyn used to say to me, if you're gonna address anybody, make sure you say that.
We don't even know numbers.
It's all good.
I
It's
think
all
it's
good. I'm
painfully
just
obvious when we
I'm
deal with
crossing
fiscal
my
stuff.
T's. We have a situation that I thought maybe there might be some precedent set by this board. We have a very, very small trust fund that was left in a will, set up in a will. It's maybe $1,100.
Mhm.
We worked with our auditor, Alicia, recently, and my feeling is the charges for the bank to maintain that trust fund are taking away all of the dividends from said use for the cemetery. I asked about moving it into our permanent maintenance trust fund money, which of course we can't evade the principle of. It seemed to be a nice logical thing to do. And the bank, I wrote them a letter, and the bank has told me that they will not honor our request without some form of major formal authority saying, yes, that, you know, we're having some sort of approval to do that. I'm sure I'm not the only small to medium-sized cemetery that's faced this dilemma, but I think it's a real travesty that if interest rates go lower, they will invade the principal with their service charges, which of course they can do. And I'd like to make that money, move that money over, so that at least it's in our permanent maintenance trust fund and working for us. And I didn't know, there was, my NISAC colleague said, you should bring that up and see if there's any relief that could be granted.
I don't think the board has any role in that, but I'll put it out to those here who may have some knowledge of how these kinds of trust funds work, in the sense that I would imagine, and I'm just imagining there have to be a court order or something of that nature to change the nature of the trust fund, because it's somebody else's instilled a certain control over that by virtue of the terms of the trust, and that's why your bank won't honor it. I certainly would like to see it become the PM fund, all right, but I don't know how that's accomplished without significant legal work. But Tony, do you have any?
I agree. And actually, I've been in touch with the Attorney General's office about this because this charitable trust, I believe they have jurisdiction over. But the question in all of it is it truly a charitable trust or is it just a fund that's been set up? Yeah, I think proceeding to Supreme Court, possibly with not just the Attorney General.
We don't have enough money
Yeah, you can't.
to do
the
that.
index
What are the terms of the trust?
They were set up as part of the will, and I'm still getting information from the bank. It's so old, and I'm the first person that's ever really asked about this. I mean, it's probably 40 years old that this $1,000 trust was set up to take care of this person's lot. And, you know, we're a permanent maintenance cemetery. We don't do perpetual care. And by the time that the money, $40 actually, that doesn't even pay to mow their 20 by 20 space, much less put flowers on it. And, you know,
The will provided that it could be used for that purpose and would go to someone else.
it did not.
You know, when you get the cut will,
Oh, is it income only?
That's all we get, right?
To close it out, the legal fees probably a couple $100.
Well, we can't, you know, all I wanted to do was transfer it and at least, you know, but they will not, the bank said, well, we understand and we agree with what you're trying to do. And, you know, we trust the fact that the Division of Cemeteries Department of State has oversight over your permanent maintenance trust fund and you're not gonna take the money out and spend it, but sorry, unless you wanna go to court and get a court order, we cannot help you.
it's going to be a bookkeeping entry in the sense that you keep the purpose of the trust, you keep the trust, but you just move it to a different account.
Banks still gonna take it.
Well, then do they have to?
Yeah, because they're probably trustee.
I believe they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Heck, I don't know what.
Well, the Attorney General has jurisdiction to do it. If you can find somebody in the Attorney General's office. Then, of course, we're not charging. But I don't know.
You mean,
Charities Bureau.
you mean the Charities Bureau would go to court, or does the Charities?
People can't do
Or
it.
can the Charities Bureau just approve it itself?
No, they have to do the proceeding.
Is there, the only question, the other thought I have is, do you have any attorneys or affiliate with the cemetery that may be willing to? Yeah.
Well, maybe we can hook you up. I don't know if we'll get. the answer
So
that
I
you
should
want,
just
but
do a
maybe we can hook you up with the agent.
formal application, send it to Tony, or
No,
send
I
it through
don't
the
think
division,
that's-
what would you like me, or a formal question, really, and with the
Well,
backup?
we already know that, I think we're pretty sure it's gonna take court proceedings. So the question is, how can you get that done without incurring expense?
Right.
And if the Attorney General is willing to do that, and I highly doubt it, all right? I mean, you know, but we can put you in touch with the Charities Bureau, the Attorney General's office, and get their opinion on it.
You give me a letter, copy of the will, and I'll try and find someone at Charities Bureau. Forward.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not holding out a ton of hope on this, but.
Well, you know, I think that, unfortunately, I know we're not the only cemetery in this
Yeah.
position. And, you know, I think that it would be nice to get that money into a cemetery's permanent maintenance trust fund, where at least then, you know, it's working for you. I mean, this money is not helping us grow, you know, our investments in capital gains that then eventually kick out more interest for the cemetery to,
How
you
many
know,
more do you
maintain.
think there are?
You know, I know it was very popular, years back for people to leave money like this. The last elderly lady that wanted to do it, I was able to sit down and talk to her and say, please don't do it like this. If you want to give us money, please do it like this. And, but I know, you know, I think it'd make an interesting broadcaster article to ask cemeteries to, you know, give us some input, but I just know how popular it was for people to set up these trusts.
And the way it works now, it's
You might be able
frustrating
to-
the intention of the trust.
You might be able to go in the back door and go to the consumer part of the Attorney General's office. If they get enough complaints together, they'll sometimes take action.
Okay, thank you.
Rich Moylan from Greenwood in Brooklyn. On that issue, we all had a lot of problems with those kind of trusts over the years. Recently, a lot of the banks are now getting rid of them willingly, turning them over to the cemeteries. I know Woodlawn CFO and our CFO commiserated often over the amount. And recently, even with $20,000 and $30,000 trusts, Chase, some of the bigger banks have been saying, you know what, take them.
So how do they lose their trust responsibilities?
They assign it to us. I mean, we have perpetual care, so it goes to the specific
You know, if you
perpetual
could-
care
maybe,
account.
Maybe as a practical solution to this, if you could forward your paperwork for something like that, like you've done in the past, maybe that will convince this bank that it's okay to do.
Right.
Because they don't care about administering $1,000, right? I don't
You
think
wouldn't think so.
so. Maybe that can provide some comfort to them that in fact they can do it.
Were any of them Key Bankers? Were any of them from Key Bank?
I don't think so.
So in other words, the bank is delegating to the cemetery
Yeah.
its responsibility.
Yeah.
In fact, why don't you two get together after the meeting? Seriously, and exchange notes.
That's brilliant.
You know, and maybe because the bank isn't unwilling, they just say we can't, right? And here are major banks saying we can. Well,
Thank you.
all right. Now, I'd like to see that also.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, us too.
Yeah.
Did you talk to just the local office, or did you try to go higher up?
I went up the food chain, and I got to their, what they call their corporate trust department, and, you know, it's a vice president, but in a bank, there's probably, you know, at least 50 people with that title, but, you know, I got as high as I could get, and got the letter back saying, we will not honor your request because we have to, you know, but I think we can prove that other banks have done it, and you know, I also asked the division auditor for a letter, you know, saying this was our intent, and that it could go from literally Key Bank's hands into our permanent dividend trust fund. I didn't need to be part of it.
So if we get this information from Dominic and from Rich, and we can determine that it's absolutely appropriate and lawful, and put that in an opinion, if you will, that would be persuasive as well. It's a good thing for
That
us
would
to
be
know to
wonderful.
have.
Two other issues. I have nothing concrete, but you approved the purchase of the greenhouse over 2 years ago now. We're about to sign a contract for the demolition of the part of the adjacent building and the building in the back. It's getting close to major alteration submission to you. Not ready yet, but we're sort of being pressed by the state too, because we have a $500,000 grant from the State Historic Preservation Office, and we have two $1 million grants from New York City, and there's time pressure involved. So that money, even though we'll be laying it out, a lot of it is coming back to us. But just so you're in the loop, if Mr. Polishuk shows up and sees buildings being torn down in a few weeks, he's not surprised. It's still a very exciting project, and we're looking forward to it. Today, I was hoping to be bringing contracts for the purchase of the monument dealer next door to the greenhouse. Unfortunately, they're still negotiating some terms. What's happening there is when we looked at the space we want to build for our offices to make more burial space at the cemetery, we realized we had to build a little too high, and while it was legal, the greenhouse was not looking, it was, yeah, it was diminishing the appearance of the landmark. So the monument dealer next door happened to be ready to retire. So we made him an offer, he agreed, and actually we were working with there would have been a bidding war for the property, because there's a place next door named Baked in Brooklyn who also wanted that property desperately, but they didn't need it all. And had we gotten into a bidding war, they would have been able to outbid us because the appraisal is at 1.9, and he could have gone over that, and we know we couldn't. We wound up settling for 1.5 million, and concurrently with the purchase, we will be entering into an agreement with Baked in Brooklyn to sell, I believe it's 43% of the property to Baked in Brooklyn. We'll subdivide. They'll have their right of way to get from 25th to 26th Street, and we'll have 4,000 some odd more square feet, so we won't have to build. We'll be able to knock a floor or two off the height of the building to make landmarks happy, to make us happy, hopefully to make everybody happy. So I'm hoping to have those contracts to you by the next meeting, but just...
The purpose of the monument dealer, that wasn't contemplated in the original submission.
It was not, no.
Right, so of course we'll need the appropriate application for that, but as usual, all sounds fine. Take a look at it. Good. Anybody else?
Sure.
Who are you?
Dave Fleming.
Oh,
Hi,
Mr.
sir.
Fleming.
Just actually, just a short comment.
Yeah.
I want to thank the division and the board for working with us on the regulations, but also on providing input as we drafted some legislation that we're advocating this year. And, you know, we've been looking at some of the numbers provided by the division over the years, and, you know, it's pretty clear, almost 5% of the cemeteries regulated by the division, the cemetery board, have been abandoned. And it's a very big number, and we have significant concerns. A lot of the regulations we've been meeting with you about, and legislation we've been advocating for addressing some of these really serious concerns about just keeping these smaller cemeteries functioning and keeping them from being worse than these so I just, you know, thanks for working with us. The numbers are really staggering as we see these cemeteries being abandoned.
Yeah, we know the trend, it's not determined. We all understand. Okay, thanks. Anybody else today? All righty, what we'll do is we'll take a 5-minute break. Motion to go into executive session for investigation and litigation matters. Okay, 5-minute break. Very good.
It
Well,
works.
I went off, that's comforting, yeah, that it works. All right, no motions, no resolutions, nothing in executive session, back out to open session. Before we conclude, would you like to remind folks about the date, the next meeting?
Next meeting, Wednesday, April 30th,
That is correct, sir.
I think it's at 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock,
That is correct, sir.
at the Hilton Hotel in downtown Albany.
Beauteous. All right, that being said, move to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Over, say aye.
Aye.